Are we already, Chairman?
Ready?
Believe so.
Okay. Welcome to tonight's Township of Sparta Environmental Commission meeting on Thursday, June 22nd, 2023, 7 p.m. Meeting is live in the council chambers and is being streamed on the Sparta Township YouTube channel. Please take notice that action will be taken on the following items at the Sparta Environmental Commission meeting of Thursday, June 22nd, 2023. The meeting is called to order at 7 p.m. Adequate notice of this meeting was provided to the public and the press on January 6, 2023 by delivering to the press and posting on the township website a copy of the notice. Michelle, can we have the roll call, please?
Councilman Dean Blumetti,
Here.
Chairwoman Kim Knoll, Vice Chair Neil Sauerwein,
Here?
Christine Dunbar,
Here.
Robert Poles, Ted Gall,
Here.
Christine Rogers,
Here.
Linda Tower.
Here.
Thank you. You have the salute to the flag. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have no minutes to approve, so go right to the correspondence. We have the Environmental Commission's response to Planning Board for the Sparta Middle School Point Roof Mount Photovoltaic System Solar Capital Improvement Plan. Which is included in our packet here.
That was just what was already submitted.
This was already submitted, so
Yeah.
we don't have to act on this or do.
No, there's no action on either of the correspondence. It was just to give the committee the final of what was submitted on behalf, so you had it.
So that went to the planning board last night, right?
Yes, it did.
Okay,
Yeah, it's very helpful.
good. I missed the meeting. And we also had the commission's response to the Highlands applicability determination application, which was also submitted, right?
Yes.
Okay. And that's it for correspondence. We have the application for 401 Houses Corner Road, number 699, Planning Board application. Now, that's been, that was tabled for the Planning Board meeting last night, so that's going to be in the on the next meeting agenda.
Yes.
So we can review that, I guess. Were there further plans for us to review? Or on the table? Okay. Guess we can all go take a look. This is a sign that's already there, right?
Yes. 2 points. I don't know if there's anything really else that you need to review. Here's the sign.
Right.
I do believe. Just look at-
Loading now.
I'm sorry.
In the email, in the correspondence that accompanied this, I think it just was noting and asking the organization about the gravel area. And then again.
Right, right. That was the engineers.
There is a gravel area because I went out there and tried to turn around, but I didn't go all the way in the gravel because it was so loose and wasn't packed. I was afraid I'd get stuck.
That's this gravel right here, right?
The one
Where
I
the
was
sign is?
was farther down from 15 is where I got stuck.
Their sign is pretty close to the gravel area and the road, but it's a little late now because they have a lot of money invested in it.
And
What
this
are they
is-
going to plant there, Ted?
Excuse?
What are they going to plant there, do you think?
I have no idea,
I was just asking.
no idea. But what I
Oh.
was worried about is the sign it could possibly block the view of cars coming out of the gravel area, which is eventually going to be a driveway or road. But it's a little late.
It's a cute sign. And when you drive by and you see the sign, and the area is very neatly cleared. I do lament the trees being gone, but it is the neatly cleared. It looks like they're organizing it.
Now, are they going to have anything else besides the sign and whatever they plant? Yeah,
Not that I
There's-
read.
there's not going to be a building or anything there.
I think what happened was they cleared the way. Sign and. Then, yeah, they're just trying to finalize, I believe. Those two correspondences should have.
We don't take up logging, do they?
They actually, I believe, but I wanted to find out for sure. I think they have a woodlot plan.
Yeah.
But I don't know who their forester is. They didn't mention it.
Does that mean they're going to be taking more trees out or planting like Christmas trees?
What it usually means is that they thin it out or they cut down certain trees from time to time, according to the direction of the forester.
Yep, forestry management and conservation.
And that way they don't have to pay taxes or many taxes at all. That's why they have it. If you have a woodlot plan, you get a big break.
Even more than having, just because it is farmland? Is that,
Well, they can't farm the wood area because it's protected. It's a wetlands, I believe, area. Most of that
okay.
property, I think like 60%, 70% of it, they can't do anything with really, but there is a
Right.
section they can manage it, you know, as a woodlot, I guess, and get credit for that.
More drastically, but I'm glad that you're doing it for.
I'd like to know who the farmer is and what they're growing. I'd like it to become a river-friendly farm.
Anderson Farms, the one with the farm stand on 15
Is it?
nearby, yes, right?
Oh,
That's what I'm understanding.
I'd like to see that it is Anderson Farm.
I believe it is. That's what Michelle just said. Own it or at least
I would like to recommend that they only plant grass between the sign and the road,
Oh, nothing to obstruct the
the
vision.
view
Okay,
of cars coming out of the
Yeah.
gravel area.
So in the engineer's report, the engineer mentioned about asking them what they're going to do to stabilize that area. This
Right.
is, also, the sign is very close to the road. Right, but I was reading in that there's no, that's a rural residential zone, and there's no, requirement for distance from the road
Setback.
because of the zone. But across the street and the other areas do have setbacks of like, 30 feet, like pretty far, and this is like 4 feet or something. So that's probably gonna come up in the planning board meeting, just about the distance to the road.
It appears to be back far enough that you'll have a view of the oncoming traffic, so.
Yeah, it's pretty straight, the road right there?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a straight road.
Yeah,
Did I miss any comments I should be writing down? No.
We were just trying to establish, this is Anderson Farms, right?
That's what my understanding was, that they bought the property.
That's what I,
Yeah, although the owner is in, Arlington or
I didn't see that. But I don't know the real name of Anderson Farm. It's, could not be Anderson, but I was looking for name
right.
in there.
Yeah, it's not Anderson and Lawrence. Met the owners a couple times. Buying Christmas trees, and when they were putting up that new addition a year or two ago on the front part of it, the greenhouse.
I go to their stands all the time.
I know.
So,
No.
No?
Yeah. I mean, that's not Anderson, I don't think. Yeah, that's. That could be it. Yeah, but shouldn't that be? Yeah, yeah. Maybe they're planting something in the rear section of the property.
Maybe they're gonna do trees. So, I had suggested that we maybe add some, comments, that pertain to farming,
yeah,
best
my only
management
comment
farming.
is that they only cleared grass between the sign and the road right away.
She does, I mean, the write-up is beautiful, except for we didn't address, a request in terms of farming management that would be sustainable. And I would like that to be added
Yeah.
to it, because they've made clear that they're gonna be
Is that the
farming
draft?
it.
Chris? Do you have the
Yeah.
draft?
Mm-hmm. So, right here, you're saying, at like a number 3?
Yeah. Because we talked about cleared, we talked about the trees being removed. We've read that they're going to be planting crops, and we would like them to do that, not so much commercially as sustainably.
sustainable farming
Yeah.
methods.
Mhm.
I suggest that.
Yeah, and we can make specific, we would make the suggestions that, that they closely and carefully manage their fertilizer application, pesticide application, because it
Yeah.
is close to the aquifer, right?
Yeah.
That
Water
the
use,
aquifer
right?
area.
Water use, how about just irrigation itself, right?
Yeah,
Like
water use,
drip
and,
irrigation?
water management, I guess
Mhm.
we could say,
Yeah.
water management. I guess there's not gonna be a building, right? And they're not gonna have livestock that I saw in there, so, but usually there's a farmstead management component, if they do. And also, probably one of the most important things besides the water is the soil, the management of the soil. And we should indicate that the soil should be organically, yeah, exactly, as much as possible.
In addition to the aquifer, the Sparta Junction Brook is the one that's on the property, right? Or right next to the property.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
so that's real important. And I have somewhere, I think it's in another notebook, though, I have links to, links to a place where they can get this information about how to, manage in such a way that it will keep our environment, greater environment, healthy, and it will provide more nutritious food also.
Now, this is in the Highlands Preservation Area as well. It's a farm, so I'm not sure, I'm not building anything, so I don't know what kind of restrictions there are. I'm sure they went through this already, because the only reason they're coming back to the planning board is just the sign.
Right.
So we'll be able to offer comments at
Yes,
the meeting,
we
but
should.
we won't be approving the use of the land or stuff. I think it makes sense to share all that. Yeah. Ted, do you remember this from years ago? Did this property ever come up?
I don't remember it,
Yeah,
but it's cleared way back.
yeah.
That's all I know.
Here,
I don't know
This
what
is
they're
it.
gonna do back there.
Forget how many
Eventually,
acres.
they're gonna have to come in with something.
It's a large piece of land. Yeah. I mean, for Sparta. Not for- Not for Midwesterners are gonna like.
Yeah.
35 acres.
Sparta should have bought it.
Gross. Oh, yeah, no.
it's not a club, it's like a program.
Oh,
A
okay.
specific program for farmers to help them achieve this, and also for regenerative farming. And bringing back the soil from a dead state to a healthy living state.
Oh, okay.
Because that soil did not look that healthy. Which surprised me, because it had the trees on it, and you would think through time
Right.
it would have built up.
Yeah, but they took those trees down with like heavy equipment and just knocked everything and scraped it and piled it up and made that whole big mountain in there. So I think it did look better and now it looks worse.
Okay, they went the topsoil, I guess, the top organic layers.
Can I, were the trees
you
covered
can do
the
that.
whole
That's
property?
pretty-
And I'll try to
good,
write
yeah.
some notes for tonight and see how.
This is all nonprofit, just like
Yeah.
the food shed.
Sam.
When they started clearing it, I was like having a
Okay,
heart
but
attack,
notes.
but then I thought that was a farm. I'm like, okay,
Kim,
maybe they'll
you know,
leave
she
like
wants to
calm my heart
implement
rate
it.
down a little bit.
Into there.
But if it's Anderson Farm,
You know, big development.
they already know what they're gonna do with that. They've got it planned out, they've got it managed and everything, but I think it's worth mentioning, you know, to just keep pushing.
I could have sworn it was Anderson, but you are right. If you look at that, there's nothing that says anything about Anderson Farm. but It could be a lease.
But I remember hearing that in the past, but that was just, it was,
No, it's been heard a lot. You know, like, that was my assumption, but now that you think about it. I mean,
It would
it's
make sense because they're so close with that farm stand. maybe.
But it's got a whole new name.
yeah.
It would say Anderson, but then again, it's not being the older, they could be leasing it, but.
Yeah, you'd think that
Maybe it's
Anderson would, everybody likes Anderson, you know, and looks for the stands. You think that they would put down here a project of Anderson's Farm, or they put something to give
Yeah,
them,
to
draw
look at-
attention to their name,
Yeah.
to
Because
lend
maybe Anderson's,
credibility.
when you think about it, they might not have enough money to actually outright buy that whole piece of property when they're trying to make their business work still, but leasing it makes sense. You know, have the owner just own it as an investment and then lease it.
I remember whoever ran the stand on Newton Sparta Road before it was Anderson Farms, they had farms, they got their produce from different farms.
Mm.
Andover and other places.
Mhm. I had a funny thing happen. I was driving along the Stillwater Road, and I always look and see what's in the farm stands, right? And here I'm seeing all of these things, you know, that clearly could not have been grown by their farm, like
Oh.
eggplant and, you know, all of these, you know, tomatoes, unless they have a huge greenhouse complex in back of their house, you know, and I'm like, no.
Oh, yeah.
But you probably bought them at the store and then doubled the price, right?
Actually, their prices are pretty competitive. We know they're not growing lemons and limes and avocados that they sell.
Right.
So, yeah. They've
What
always had
bothers
those.
me is they come in after the fact with the sign rather than
Yeah.
before.
Yeah. Yeah, that's another thing that's off topic, but last night at the planning board, we listened to the presentation for the electric solar panels.
Mm-hmm.
And it really bothered me the way that it's like, why even bother to come to us at this point? You know, there needs to be a change in that procedure, because what I would have liked to see is it early on being brought to us and having 2 or 3 choices. We looked at this alternative, and this one. Can you help us make this decision? Because really, when you're talking about putting solar panels on top of schools, that can affect and help the whole entire community, you know, that we're a part of. And I know that he said that the benefits would be passed on to the taxpayer, you know. and-
Indirectly. Yeah.
Indirectly, but maybe there could have been another choice, like community solar, where everybody in our community within our area could have received maybe, you know, $100 less on their bill every few months. You know, I would prefer that, because I don't have control over how they're gonna spend that $3.5 million. Maybe it's too
Yeah. 4 actually total when you add the middle school.
Yeah.
4 million. Over 15 years, but still.
4 million, including the middle
Yeah.
school, over the 15 years, but perhaps it would have been better to share that with all of us and get our input early on.
Yeah.
So does Onyx sells the power, right? Or does the schools get to use the electrons?
So they did make an arrangement where this high school will be getting free electricity. That's where you get the savings. Worth 3.5 million over the 15 years. So they're gonna have, whatever their bill is each month, it's gonna be compensated by this. Middle school was a different arrangement because Onyx is gonna help repair their roof first. So they took out a corresponding amount. So I think the middle school's maybe 64% of their electricity is gonna be covered over the next 15 years too.
Hmm.
And then otherwise, everything's going back to the grid, and Onyx is in programs to get compensated. So they're just really using the roof, leasing the roof space.
Right. So do they, like, the school uses some of the electricity and the rest goes to the grid that Onyx makes money from? Is that what happens?
Yeah, I don't know if actually, I don't think the actual electricity being generated there is being used by the high school. I
Right,
think it's all going.
It
up,
just goes-
And then they're getting the credit to cover the bill. I don't think it's actually using that electricity.
right.
Yeah.
That
That
was
would
how I
be too
thought it was.
complicated.
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah.
But you're right, in that case, it would have been nice to give input last year from us, if they wanted it. I mean, they can do whatever they want, because we don't have any authority over the Board of Ed, but.
So it's not like a residential installation where they have net metering.
No, I don't think so.
That's,
Yeah. Luckily, this sign isn't too visually bad.
No.
It's actually a fairly nice sign.
It's
Yeah, it
cute,
looks-
I
Yeah,
like it.
And it's nice that they have it on this kind of structure where it's not too gaudy looking, like, that's the kind of signs that we seem to be improving anyway. Like,
oh,
Yeah,
nice 2 posts, low to the ground.
yeah, it looks very nice.
So you're right, it should come prior and ask for approval.
So maybe, did they get called out on it and that's why they're doing this? Is that what happened?
I'm not even sure why it's coming to the full planning board and not the site plan waiver subcommittee. Usually signs,
yeah, why would it come to the full planning board? We'll find out.
I don't know, you know,
No, now that you say it, I'm like,
usually we get all those sign requests and tenant changes and all that.
of course, today was Deb's last day, so,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, she wouldn't mind.
She's gonna
if I
get one
texted.
day once, though, or she's gonna leave.
No, Dory is going to be taken over, so we'll have to find out a little bit more about that, and then, but I would get ready for your planning board when you do that, but we'll get this going, but that's, maybe Dory can find out.
Yeah, curious why.
Yeah,
Because there's a subcommittee of the planning board, which you're on it with me, it's 4 of us, and Ted knows about it. They look at, we've had like 25 or 26 this year already, all the small requests that don't go to the full planning board. And it's when a tenant changes, a sign, you want to redo a sign, all the little things that aren't variances and aren't. They come to this subcommittee, that's handled
Yeah.
Occasionally we have Zoom, we have emails.
We're up to 27, we have that Portuguese barbecue.
Yeah.
I don't know how they're gonna fit all those cars in there, it's so odd. The pharmacy's in the front, and then there's gonna be this Portuguese
Interesting.
barbecue in
Yeah.
back of
Right
Sparta
across from
Pharmacy,
Ocean State.
and then if
Oh,
it's
Sparta Pharmacy, they're looking to go in there. I don't know who's there now.
Flex Nutrition, and
Oh,
then if you drive around the back, it looks like a car lot of abandoned cars. There's about 8 cars that are just sitting there, piled up, not on top of each other, but, you know. This is interesting stuff.
okay. So we think we have all captured?
Great.
Thank you. Does anybody want me to go over the comments that were just made? Or? do you
Yeah, that'd be
think-
good.
Yeah?
If you could, yeah.
So long as I don't know when this plan, when was this? I don't know what the most current photo is, but if they could plant only grass between the sign and the road. Not sure what the current look of that is. And then just from going by what Christine gave, soil health management, stream corridor protection, nutrient management, pest management, irrigation water management, which all comes along with the farming, like you said. Which I don't see, is nutrient management under fertilizer application?
Mhm.
Okay, I could include that word in there too.
Yeah.
You did say something, if there was a building that was going to be on there, you might want to add that on or think about that later
Farm-
on.
Farmstead management, they usually include livestock with that also. But it could be just the farmstead itself, the way that it's cared for.
Okay. And then we already have that the stream is by the Sparta Brook tributary. So I think is that different than the junction?
I think the official name is Sparta Junction Brook. I think that's what they had on their map too.
And then besides that, the rest of the comments then would be okay? That there's something that I missed? And you could, I guess we could just provide the links. Chris, that'll get get them to this, but
It's the RC&D, Resource Conservation and Development.
Okay.
New Jersey Resource Conservation and Development Group. And I think they're in Asbury, New Jersey, but they manage the whole northern area with their river-friendly farm program. And they have a lot of education for farmers just getting started.
Okay.
And they have, they would be able to they'd be knowledgeable about any type of funding that would be, because that's usually a big part of it. Farmers need a little help and assistance with that.
Also that it's in the Highlands Preservation Area, just as a comment.
Okay. Any other comments on the application?
Do we need to do a vote on that for the comments?
I don't think
No,
so.
right?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, so being that there are no members of the public here, we'll move on to reports. Start team,
Sure.
Councilor.
Yeah, so I just have two updates from the council meeting on June 13th. That was the last one that I haven't reported on yet. So just two quick updates. One was Tammy Horsfield gave a presentation on Sussex County tourism. Really fascinating, talked about a lot of the value that the county gets in Sparta too from visitors. And as I mentioned last night at the planning board meeting in my update, it was loud and clear to me, and it was obvious that a lot of our attractiveness is based on our natural resources and the character and our way of life. And that's what people are seeking when they come here. The outdoors, our rural character. So it's just nice to know and good to keep in mind, especially for the Environmental Commission, that is a lot of what we're marketing, not all, but a good chunk of what we're marketing and why people seek to visit our town and county. And then also just a housekeeping, the time of the town council meetings, the start time is going to be changing on July 11th going forward. So July 11th, that meeting is going to be at 7:00 p.m. And then after that, it'll be starting at 7:00 p.m. instead of 7:30 p.m. And that was it. Thanks.
Thank you, Dean. Chris, Planning Board?
Yes, most of the meeting last night was about the Delmar project for the Regional Cancer Treatment Center up by Conestoga Trail. And they appreciated our comments as usual. And the point was taken very well from previous suggestions that we really wanted to see more natives being planted. So I think that Mr. Dunn, who is in charge of the landscaping, I think he understands that. There were comments made by the public regarding, trees and shrubs. That area is very visible when you're entering into Sparta, coming down Woodport Road. And we need to really take care because that we want to maintain the flavor of Sparta and the plantings and have it not become looking so commercial. Luckily, the building is set back a little bit, so that really helps. And then the trees and the shrubs can be planted in front there. Another concern was by a person who lives along the Conestoga, and I was so glad to see that person. And he was concerned about this huge drainage basin that was all full of very dirty and polluted-looking water. And it would be very easy for children to be curious about that and slide down and get in there. And I don't think that, I believe it was Dean, you asked for a solution to that situation, and I don't think that Mr. Dykstra offered a solution.
Yeah.
Do that.
No short-term solution. I think that's just the condition it's going to be under construction.
Yeah, for the next year.
Up to a year, yeah.
Because they're going to be building the building here. That's the blue space. I'll pass this around. So that's just the situation.
I think from an aesthetic standpoint, they did agree to do all their plantings on the slopes of the basin and outside the basin,
Yes.
but not wait till the project's done. They agreed to do it as soon as possible, so that at least from an appearance standpoint, it wouldn't look like just a pit of muddy water.
Yeah, so that was great. And then up from the basin, they are going to, in between where the septic field is and that huge basin, right at the angle right there of Woodport and Conestoga, they're going to plant a variety of trees and shrubs in there,
Natural looking.
natural-looking native. So that will really help that barren area. Okay, so that's good. Now, the other thing
And some
was,
trees too. We had them agree to put three trees in. right
Three
across From where
trees.
East Mountain would come out at that light and look across. There'll be a parking lot put in there, but in front of that, they've agreed to put some 3 trees in there too, so.
yeah, he mentioned, I was surprised, he mentioned like an oak, a red oak. They get very big, you know? Yeah, so, I mean, if he wants to plant an oak tree, I'm all for that. So that father seemed to be a little bit, less worried, and, I was so glad that somebody from Conestoga, that they came and they voiced their concern, because I was very concerned and still am, about the 2 extra cuts that are going to go onto their street. And there was a traffic study, and she didn't seem to think that they were going to get much traffic, even though there were cuts being made there, and people will be coming out that way. And I think that's because the building is so much closer to Woodport. They would probably select that route.
Yeah, I would like to recommend that they turn this basin into a rain garden and plant flowers
Mhm.
and other plants in there.
I think they're going to try to do that on the slope. You can't plant right on, he was explaining, you can't plant right in the bottom. That has to be a certain type of a sand of a certain coarseness. But along the slope, they're going to have trees above, and then maybe shrubs or perennial flowering
I don't
plants.
know about trees. Shrubs sound good to me, but other types of plants too that require a lot of water.
Which brings me to something I wanted to mention is that I have a listing of plants that are salt tolerant, perennials, shrubs, and trees. Many of them are native, and I got this from the Rutgers Extension. And I was thinking of offering this to perhaps that person who does landscaping in a lot of these projects we're hearing about, as a reference point. And maybe circle the ones we prefer, because I don't think all of them are, well, none of them are invasive, but some of them are natives, and some of them are hybrids, which is fine, and others, are from other parts of the world that may not benefit wildlife and nature as much. So we could maybe take a look at that, and that would help them, because that seems to always be a point of conversation. Another interesting thing is that they're going to have 4 charging stations. But because of the 4 charging stations, they were given more credit for parking spots. So we actually got up to 96 spaces. But we're not, you'll see in the green where I've written the word no, they're not going to have a parking area back there against Conestoga. And I think one woman who spoke was very relieved that wasn't going to happen. And then we're getting 1 more affordable unit in the existing 3-story building. What else? So anyway, that was the main discussion, I think, that we had. And then Dean made a very nice proposal. We voted, and it was unanimous.
And they agreed.
And they agreed,
Agreed.
and everybody was happy, I
The
think.
impervious surface, oh yeah.
It's 40% when you consider the 2 lots.
Under 40, which was a win, I think, because,
Win.
That one lot, it's a small lot, and it's like 53 or something percent. But the big lot is a lot less than 40, so when we combine them, it's under 40 still. And it's not gonna be a limit in the deed going forward that they can't do anything else, and it has to be taken in. Yeah. so,
That's pretty good. They can't change the deed then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so that was the main thing. And then we heard from the electric people. And I've already made my comments on that. I think they did things backwards. That they should have come to us because we're the Environmental Commission, and they should have shown us a couple of proposals, and then we could have done a little research and better guided them, because that's our job. So I don't know why there's this disconnect between the school board and the government, but
The
There's-
electric people being,
the Onyx,
for the solar.
yeah, for the solar panels on the middle school and the high school.
Is that typical that there's a divide in New Jersey between the Board of Eds and the town government? Like such a big divide?
Well, in a case like this, I mean, to me, it seems that it's part of their capital improvement project was to do this, and there's a big financial component to it. So they weren't doing it to be altruistic. It was a, financial component. So in their capital improvement plan and their budget, they agreed to do this. They put it out to bid, I think it was like 2 years ago as an RFP.
Mhm.
And this was, and they did all the screening of that. They did what they thought was the best deal. They're only required to come to the planning board as a courtesy review, and we can give them recommendations and comments and guidance, but we don't approve it or disapprove it. And at this point, they're like ready to, they're, I think, started the work. They're like, they're going. So in that case, it is pretty separate, as I understand, but yeah.
But so the, whatever the code is that enable, or just has them do a courtesy review with the town, is that typical, or is that?
I think it is, but I can't say for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, I don't think it's just unique to us. I think
Yeah.
it's the way it's separated in
Yeah,
terms of
'cause
their
they're
budget.
such large construction projects, it would
Yeah.
be, I guess, hard, but
Yeah, I think it is
Still.
pretty separate.
yeah,
I mean, think about it, their budget is larger than
towns.
this budget by a lot, yeah.
That's where most of our tax
Yeah.
dollars
Yeah.
go into.
But, I think that's all I have.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you, Chris. That's it for reports. Unfinished business. The Environmental Commission Annual Report Draft.
I just was reading that. On page 2, I'm gonna suggest submitted and awarded 2 grant applications. Because didn't we get the green business and we got, right?
Yeah.
So I think just that should be included in there.
Under quarter 1 and 2 for 2023. Is that where you,
Oh, also, okay, sorry.
Yeah, it's on the second page, but
oh, yeah, I see.
yeah.
Oh, okay. Right.
Too many papers.
So do we need to vote on this or approve it, or you,
I think it was just another chance for us to, it was discussed, but there was only, I think, 4 of you here last time.
right,
This would have to be the final because it's due June 30th, sorry,
right.
jumping ahead, so.
But now you just recommended an addition to it, right, so,
Yeah, but I don't think we did that at the last meeting. I don't think you have to do that for,
I don't think you have to. I think it's
Annual
just a
report?
summary report, yeah.
okay.
I'm just going by last year too, and
yeah,
Prior years, I
I'm
don't
trying to
remember.
remember what we did last year and,
I think on the back, or on this page 2, the second bullet, we actually have 2 new environmental commission members, right? We have
Yes.
Christine Rogers.
Yes, we do.
Yeah. So, and Linda, we have 2 that were sworn in the last year.
oh,
Good catch.
yeah, did Christine, you came in?
January, so.
January?
Right.
Yeah, you would have been sworn in.
Yeah, so Chris,
Chris was here today. Yeah.
What does that top bullet point on page 2 mean? The New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection submission. And then it says 2023 year-to-date 1. That's a little bit confusing, I think. Like, what kind of submission is that?
Last year's?
It's, It's funny because I actually thought that too, and I didn't know what it meant. Maybe we'll just have to clarify with Kim, because she really did do the crux of this, because I only came in March. The date. Department of Environmental. Maybe because we had that one correspondence, and then that was a response to that?
Well, that was
That's
this,
at the bottom. That's the last bullet point.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
well, this seems to be a duplicate, maybe.
You guys didn't submit anything else to the DEP in the first quarter, or what's this year to date? One.
Because I think if it's referring to the correspondence, it should say correspondence instead of submission.
Yeah.
Submission almost makes it sound like it's an application of some kind. Either for a grant or something else.
It seems to me it is the same as the last bullet on the bottom, right?
Which bullet point?
This one here.
Oh, up at the.
Yeah, the very, very top, yeah. And I think it's the same as the last item on the page.
I'll have to take a look too, at all the agendas. Maybe there's something there that. But we will have to, because Kim really did draft this up, so she might have had a thought with it, but we could contact her tomorrow.
And maybe for the Earth Day Fair bullet point, it might be good to actually list out how many conservation or township organizations participated. Because I think it was like 12. It was a significant number. I think it was worth mentioning.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Sure. I can go pull all the contracts,
Mhm.
like Smokey the Bear.
What about when you guys did the cleanup?
Oh,
Yeah,
Oh, yes.
that was in October.
I think you guys did do it in
We
October.
did, yeah.
Good job.
We didn't do one this year?
I would like to propose that we do one this year in middle October. Details to come.
Second.
We didn't do a spring one.
I thought I don't think so. I think we were focused on the Earth Day Fair and,
That's right.
yeah.
Maybe you did.
I did a different one.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe you did one with someone else.
Yes, I did the one that Mitch Morrison organizes. That's right.
I'll get the date of that.
I don't know whether this would count, but 3 of us on the EC participated in a road salt study by the Watershed Institute and the NJDEP.
That's right.
Yeah.
When was that?
That started the last week of December and went through about the 1st of April. Road salt impact study.
I think I'm pretty sure the Environmental Commission sent a memo to the planning board or the council last fall about the zoning changes to the ED zone and some of those other ones. There was that subcommittee that worked on updating some of those zones and the ordinances. And I think the EC sent feedback on them to the council and to the planning board. I could double check. and let you
Yeah,
know.
I also have Deb had left a nice, large, or very organized binder of everything. I can certainly make sure that everything is captured here.
It'd probably be October, probably November, actually. I think it was late fall.
Okay, anything else on the annual report? Okay, let's move to the Open Space Committee. Chris and Christine, you're on this committee, right?
I think,
Is this the
I
one-
think it's Linda and myself.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I did forget to mention that I did tell the very end of the meeting, it was very late at night, and I did mention that we were working on an open space plan as part of Sustainable New Jersey. But maybe that wasn't correct because we need to vote if we're going to really pursue the open space plan. But I did say that. But the feeling I got after I mentioned that from the planning board is that they were happy and relieved because I said that it would be incorporated into the master plan, which they're going to be working on. So they seemed very grateful that we would be doing that. And it was nice to kind of feel that we were supported in doing that by the planning board. Right? So, with that in mind, I did speak to Barbara Davis of the New Jersey Land Conservancy today. And a little bit about how we should proceed. I mean, the directions from Sustainable New Jersey are very clear. I don't know whether you got a copy last time, right, of the open space? This is me, but Dean, you weren't here at the last meeting, so you probably did not. And Michelle, I don't think you did either, because I have your name on this, but I may have given it. This spells it out, step by step, what we need to do. And it can be done by the EC without hiring anybody, but it's not always a good idea for the EC to do it. Particularly in our case, because we are in the Highlands, we can get funding to have the Highlands Council, who's coming to speak to us, help us with the plan and to do the plan. So that would be great if we would take advantage of that. And there's apparently other sources of funding to help us also, like Green Acres funding. The plan that she would be happy to help us come and talk to us about how we should proceed and give us ideas. Or she would be happy to come and just speak to a subcommittee that we had and sit down with us. She felt for some reason that, and I don't quite understand this, maybe you get it, that it would be more objective if it was an outside agency that was coming up with the plan rather than us. And then that way we would be able to vote without recusing ourselves when the plan came up because we wouldn't be showing bias. So she felt if we could possibly fund it through the Highlands Council and a combination of sources like Green Acres, that this would be preferable.
Would that be with input from us or from?
Well, if the procedure, you haven't had time to read through this, but it looks to me like you have to involve the community and have public hearings and everything. It's part of the process.
Would this, because I missed last meeting, would this be in collaboration with the planning board or the council? Not
I
necessarily.
don't think it says it, so it would have to pass the council.
Good night, Ted.
Good night, Ted.
It would have to go before the planning board and the council in good time after the public hearings, I guess, or as part of the process. Good night.
Ted.
So yeah, it's all spelled out, what
Okay.
we need to do.
Okay. I'm assuming this would dovetail into the eventual master plan work.
Oh, yeah.
So it would have to.
This will be, this will help us coming up with this plan, and in fact, even doing the plan, we will have to be setting goals. And those goals would be incorporated as part of the master plan goals.
Good.
And I love the idea of us being able to sort of like take a broader view and set that out first instead of coming into it backwards from, you know, a different lens, like development or, you know, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
So I guess the question that I have is that, do we want to form a subcommittee? Because I don't think we ever voted on forming, or if we need to vote, do we need to vote on forming a subcommittee?
I want to say, I know you weren't at the last meeting, but the one before, I think we took a vote and you two were on it.
Along with Kim, right? Was,
I was on a subcommittee with Kim for planning the event for next year for the ANJAC grant. And I think Kim was going to work with Linda and maybe you as well. You were talking in the past though about the native plants versus the invasive plants. So that was kind of one subcommittee. I don't
That's
know
a
if we ever,
resolution. Yeah.
I don't know if we ever actually voted on the open space
space.
piece.
Well, I plan on working on the minutes next week. My life has calmed down a little bit.
No, I agree. I don't think we specifically talked about an open space committee.
I thought I saw it in an email.
Okay. While you're looking for that, when we talk about a subcommittee, can we include people from the community in our subcommittee?
I don't know, so
I believe
will have to
so.
find that out.
Yeah, I believe so, but
I don't see why not. I'm trying to think.
Do we need to advertise that we're?
Well, we
form-
have that green team.
Well, we'll call
email.
it the Green Team. It's a project of the Green Team, or,
well, the green team has all the people on the email distribution list, which is probably like 20 or 30 or 40. So,
Sounds like we'd contact them when we wanted like public input as
Yeah.
opposed to like solving problems on a committee.
yeah, being on the working committee, yeah. But there are other committees that combine residents and board members, like last year's planning board subcommittee in the fall had some planning board members and some people from the public, and that's when they looked at the ED zone and some other zones.
sure.
There's the advisory committee for state plan endorsement. That's part of the planning board now. And that's a few people from the planning board and a few residents. So there's definitely ways to combine those two.
Well, let me do whatever research that we need to, and then maybe at the next meeting, we actually, if we didn't, but I'd have felt like the last time you were here,
Oh, the
we
last one. was-
did have a vote on that, but of course, we go back to the live stream. But I do plan on, you know, like I said,
Yeah.
I'm hoping.
I could be wrong too, but I thought that the chair of the planning board and the chair of the environmental commission can establish subcommittees just on their own. I don't think it needs to be a approved vote. That's my understanding. I think,
Okay,
not that it's gonna get voted down, I don't think, but just for, I think the chairperson is allowed to just create subcommittees, I believe,
Okay.
as long as it's not a quorum.
well,
It's worth
Uh,
checking.
yeah, I would definitely appreciate checking into that before
Yeah.
making decisions.
And then to just, whoever from the public might sit on the subcommittee, is there any process for recruiting those people? Or can it just be who people we know are interested from some other activities?
Good question. I mean, it could be advertised. There's also, we have an online volunteer submission form for different township committees, like you know,
Yeah.
from getting on here. So I think that can be expanded because we've
Good
actually we're getting people who want to sit on the business development committee that was just established that replaced the EDC. So we're getting volunteers coming in through that. So I think there's a chance to put it out that way, perhaps. I don't know. I mean, it would take a little IT work to, or people could just check off other and put down open space committee.
Yeah.
I know it's mentioned like in the council meetings and in meetings, usually publicly, it's announced that
Mm-hmm.
we're looking for volunteers.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Is that how the Business Development Committee advertises through, I mean, gets
Yeah.
members of the public to join
Yeah. So, yeah.
through the council meetings?
Yeah, I don't think there's been any advertising of it, but yeah, people who are interested need to go to that website, fill out a volunteer application.
But I think the first piece of action is to establish what is the role of this committee and when we're trying to move forward and establish an open space plan, would that be done by this subcommittee and developed, or would it be hired out? Because if it's being hired out by a consultant, then I feel like you let the consultant do the work. There's a lot of mapping that's involved, a lot of analysis, interviews with different officials in the town. All of that goes into the development of the plan. And then maybe they create something that this open space subcommittee can react to, rather than establishing the subcommittee too early in the process, if it is going to be hired out to a consultant who is familiar with doing this work. So I think that's the first decision, is will it be done in-house by this committee to meet the different criteria that's in this Sustainable Jersey guidelines, or is it going to be done by a consultant like the Land Conservancy of New Jersey or someone else? Because then I think we just need to try to decide how that would move forward. And I'm sure it's not just this committee, right? It's probably also, is that a decision that would have to go to the town council,
I think to adopt it probably, but I don't think,
but not to, okay.
Yeah.
Develop.
unless there's funding needed, then,
There will be
Right.
funding needed,
unless we can get it through,
the council,
no,
The
through outside
Highlands-
sources, right?
yeah, the
Um,
Highlands Council, so that,
Yeah.
so on my part, I could ask the Highlands Council, and we could also ask them when they come to talk to us too,
Yeah, yeah.
you know?
The committee would have to look at like sources for funding and like pull together some of the initial information and be able to say like, here you go, contractor, this is, what our ideas are. And then they take it and run and then give us back something to react to. So I think, well, you're right, we can't go too far down the rabbit hole in like planning. Like it does make sense to have the committee like put together those first steps, I think.
Maybe what we're talking about is a concentrated subcommittee of just a subset of us to do that initial work, to pick a contractor, handle the money, start it off. Maybe later on, it includes a broader group of people for that reaction and that input process later on with people from the public, and it's more, well-rounded at that point.
Yeah, because I just think you need to have a mission in mind as you form this subcommittee. And I would hate to see people from the public think they're going to be involved in writing of this elaborate plan and then it's hired out to a consultant. So I think it just needs to be clear what the mission of this subcommittee would be right from the beginning, and whether it is just starting as a subgroup of us and then going to this broader public.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to disappoint all these eager
Right.
volunteers thinking they're going to come in
That are
actually.
breaking down the door right now.
Yeah, well, well, the high school graduation's tonight. I think they're all there. That's my
That
guess.
must be it. Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, they're going to be here eager to like say, oh, I'm going to help craft Sparta's open space and their
Exactly.
future. And then they're going to come here and just pick a contractor and then wait a few months maybe. So it might be the timing might have to be organized. Yeah.
So if we were thinking that we can go get funding from like a Highlands Council, the Environmental Commission would submit the grant?
Well, see, that's why I think we do need a subcommittee. Because I think that we need to get together and I think we need to look at what funding. Okay, we can get this funding along with the Green Acres and the Highlands Council. Okay, so that's one way that we could go. It would cost Sparta X amount of dollars probably in the long run. Okay, or
and that process would take maybe, I don't know, a couple of months. If we decided to go that way by forming the partnerships and getting the funding, then we would know what parts that we wanted to do, and we could share that information with them to get them started. On the other hand, we may look at it and say, oh, wow, this is going to cost a lot of money, we don't want to go that route. So we can bring that decision to us, and we can decide we want to go with forming the partnership. It's going to cost us this money, maybe not as much, but it will cost money. Or we can go the other direction where we really want to do more of this and have them play a lesser role, and it'll cost much less.
Do we
But
have
it's going to take a couple of years if we go 2 to 3 years, if we actually, the citizens and everybody decided they were going to do this.
Yeah.
It would be cheap, but it would be long, it would be less efficient. I mean, when you look at this Township of Lafayette plan, you probably didn't see that either, but it's just the first part of it. I mean, this is very professional, it's, experts have done it. But I mean, it probably cost them $12,000 to have this done by the Land Conservancy.
Probably makes sense to have, my guess personally is to have outside experts contribute a large part of it or guide the process and handle it and all that. The money, do you have any sense, it might be early, to know what the estimate is? And also, would the Green Acres or the Highlands Council or some of these other groups, do you envision them covering all the cost of it? Or do you think that the township?
No, you can look in here, they've got a table and it shows you kind of how much they ended up paying. They had so many different, they had state funding, they had county funding, and then their municipality, and this is what I wanted to ask you also, is that, do we have an open space fund that we contribute to in Sparta?
We do.
Yes.
So that's.
Did they use money from? that
Yes,
for this?
but in order to get that beautiful little mile of hiking trail through the Lawler Farm, the total cost was $455,000 approximately. The state funded, and that was a grant through Green Acres, $227,000 to almost $228,000. The county funded $200,000, so the municipal open space fund only paid like $28,000.
Yeah, yeah,
That's for a purchase of property.
yeah.
That's
I don't
true.
know if the open space funds can be used to create an open space plan, or if it's limited to actually purchasing real property.
Yeah,
That we'd have to check into.
we'd have to check.
Yeah.
But with this plan, hopefully we would see which properties we might want to acquire
Yeah, yeah.
if they come on the market. Yeah, as part of maybe a wildlife corridor or
Yeah.
protect water in a certain area. So this is a lot of work,
It is a lot of work.
to put together, and
Yeah.
I don't know whether I would be able to do that.
I think we need outside experts to
Yeah.
help do that.
But do you think that the town would be able to, let's say, and right now, come up with about $10,000 or $12,000 in their budget to help us along with this project?
I can't answer that.
Well,
I'd be
you know-
guessing, and I can't speak for the council or the budget, but the only thing is, we'd have to just be careful because we are going to be spending a lot of money, probably, if it gets approved, to do a master plan or part of a master plan rework. So I don't know if, we have to make a convincing argument if we were gonna ask for money, that this will directly feed into that and not be duplicative. Because, the master plan is gonna have to have a housing element, a circulation element, an open space element, I think. So we have to make sure that if we go ahead early and spend money on this, that it's gonna directly feed into master plan work. That would be the way we'd have to frame it. I think if we can get money externally, it probably is cleaner, easier. I'm not sure if it's faster, but
I think Land Conservancy of New Jersey is pretty much the monopoly on these plans. Like, so I think a planning firm might end up hiring them regardless. My impression, I
Yeah.
don't know how, but they've written every single one I've ever seen, yeah. Have you seen others? No, yeah.
No, 'cause I said at the last meeting, they also wrote the update to the county open space and recreational plan update. So that's available online if you wanted to take a look, but it's really structured the same way as some of the township plans. It's just on a wider scale because it's the county plan, but it's the same idea, highlighting different projects, areas of concern, part of the open space visioning for the town. So there's a lot of analysis that goes into play, including a lot of GIS mapping work, if you're familiar with that program.
I've actually done some GIS mapping for this already based on our last conversation. And I have like all of the open space in Sparta, private, nonprofit, mapped out in the town, but I don't have private, open space. So I would almost need like a parcel map, for the tax information that the township already has to be able to analyze that and pull that. And then I'd have all three pieces of like point number 3, like the inventory. So, I mean, sometimes it doesn't take very long to like pull it together. And then I guess my initial thought was if we could do some things easily, it would cost less down the line. But I agree that we will eventually need a contractor. But I think there's a lot to talk about too. Like even when we see an inventory map, like, do we want to focus on water? Do we want to focus on bike trails or hiking, or, you know, what as an environmental community are we interested in? Do we want to focus on impervious surface, you know, for our idea for the open space plan? So I still think there's a lot to determine before we go to the public, before we go to a professional even. So I don't know if I can have access to the town's GIS information. That would be cool. But you can overlay it, like I overlaid it on the zoning information. There's a lot just publicly available. So I have like all these maps already, but I don't know really what's important to us or important to really look at. So that would take like some iteration, and that would obviously take time. But that's only one, you know, bullet point.
That's great.
Something you mentioned is just maybe think some more about the master plan work. So any inputs and any like qualitative decisions around what's important and like the balancing, you know, so here's the data, but what do we want the plan to be in terms of what vision? That will have to tie into the master plan. And what I mean by that is it has to be agreed to by the planning board or whoever's working on the master plan, because the master plan is owned by the planning board. They are responsible for creating it, updating it, and they own it. Then the town creates ordinances to implement the master plan. But so if the master plan is going to eventually have an open space vision and stake in the ground, we have to be careful if we do one ahead of time that we include them, because it
Right.
can't just be, you know, it can't be different or else it's not gonna have value anymore.
Christine mentioned the idea of maybe having someone from the planning committee on this subcommittee, so the two committees could sort of work together.
Yeah.
You know, you had like some specific ideas for that, I remember, of having the planning committee and the environmental committee work together on the open space plan.
Well, I think I mentioned that I think it would be a good idea for one person to volunteer from the planning board to be on our committee and creating our vision. And also, if you would like to share the maps that you made, you know, we can look, we have to decide what's important to us. It's almost like a touchy-feely thing where you rate, you know, what's important to you. You have, okay, businesses, you know, commerce, transport, forests, hiking, bicycling, and then you rate them.
Yeah.
You know, but we would at least be getting one person from the planning board's ideas and what they feel is important. I don't know how representative that would be of everybody, though. on the planning board, but we certainly, if we can have their input early on, you know, now that I've mentioned that we're actually going to be trying to do it, it would be nice if, you know, they would engage themselves.
Yeah, I mean, I think, thinking of reverse, when the planning board starts really kicks off the process of the master plan, there's gonna be obviously a subcommittee, and it's gonna have a pretty big effort to do that over a long time. There has to be environmental commission, well, there should be environmental commission people on there, and other entities representing different aspects of master plan on that group anyway. I'm assuming you'll be there because you're the liaison between both. You know, others, I could be on there too, and there could be a bunch of others that could serve the same need.
And then once we, like you guys were saying earlier, go to a professional and have like them sort of, or I can't think of the word, but compile everything into something that the public could then look at and do exactly what you're saying, like what is most important to us. You know, that could serve, you know, that couldn't be in a vacuum, like you're saying, like whatever happened would have to be, you know, the same process as the master planning. But I think it very easily, I mean, it could be, you know, if they were involved and we did the public commenting and all of the like charrettes and whatever, you know, then it just becomes the first piece of the master plan that, you know, we're pushing forward.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. It's almost like we're getting a head start on it, instead of, if we didn't think of this at all, and then the master plan process starts up, they would be kind of kicking in at that point, and.
Yeah.
you know,
And we'd be like, they should have come to us sooner.
Exactly. Yeah, so that's possible.
Yeah.
So the funding for the master plan will eventually, it's not in the regular budget. So what I understand is that when we have an idea of a cost, it would be a request and made where we kind of take money, we almost borrow money from ourselves, from our reserve, I understand, to pay for the master plan and we pay ourselves back over X number of years. So it's kind of not affecting our annual budget, but it's taking money from the reserve specifically to do the master plan, and we pay ourselves back over time. That's my understanding of it. So that hasn't been done yet, but it's on the radar when we know it's going to happen if that's what we're gonna move forward with. So I don't know how that would affect, again, timing or funding for this. Because the master plan redo is also tied into which professionals are gonna help us do it, which planner, and there's a search going on, as you know, for planning board, a town planner and the attorney. So it might be the same professionals, it might be different, we don't know yet, but that's gonna take a month or two to, at least to, flesh out, so we might not get started on the open space things too quickly if we wait for that. That's the other downside, I guess.
Would the planners that were hired, would they be able to do the open space plan?
The existing, like harbor consultants, you mean?
Yeah, we want a new open space plan. You're our planners, make us an open space plan
I don't know if,
as part of what we're going to be paying them to do to help us with the master plan.
yeah, I'm not sure what their qualifications are, if they would outsource that, if they're, qualified to do an open space plan part of it. Also, until we finalize the search process and know who we're gonna be with long-term, the timing could be off too.
Well, that would be a good question to ask them.
Either way, they're gonna charge us. So,
Yeah,
so we have to, it's not like they have a retainer where so it's gonna be probably more, I think, for them to do it than if it's 12 or 15,000 for whatever I heard before. I would think the professionals like that probably charge even more. I don't know.
oh, okay, yeah, no,
mean-
I would rather have
Yeah.
the land conservancy.
Go right
I
to the
think.
source. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if, like anything, if we can get the money cobbled together at one or two sources here, or three sources, and get it paid for, that makes things cleaner and easier, but I'm not sure how fast that can happen either.
Well, okay, so I think we should have a subcommittee and we need to, but it's, we're not gonna make we're going to be doing research. and presenting it as we find it, such as the funding that may be able to come from the Highlands Council, such as the maps that Linda is doing.
I think that's probably the critical first step, right? To me, it seems like is fleshing out these sources, the Green Acres, the Highlands Council, the Conservancy, if there's another one on there, and getting more details around how does the funding work? You know, is it a grant that we can't apply for until the fall? Like, you know, or is it something we can get more easily and quickly? And what, maybe get an estimate of how much a typical open space plan costs for a town like us? You know, is it that 10, 12,000? Is it, you know, a lot more? I don't know.
Would we have enough questions, and would we wish to have Barbara Davis come and from the Land Conservancy, because she's offered to come and answer our questions at either an EC meeting or a planning board meeting? I told her I didn't think the planning board was ready for her yet.
Yeah, I would agree.
So, but I think that, and even the directions here from Angic say that it should mainly come from the EC. So I think it's best that we inform ourselves first. But if you're interested in that, I told her I would let her know. And at what point in time.
I think it would be great, but maybe not like the next meeting or something, you know, once we have a little more information. But I think that would be really helpful.
I'll ask her what her schedule is like. Maybe, you know, I hate to schedule things in the summer, particularly because we have the Highlands Council meeting coming up, and that's in the same week as the planning board, I think. The 18th and the 19th, so that's back to back, and the
It is.
EC is a part of that also.
Yeah.
So July and then August, you know, people take vacations in August. So I'm almost thinking about maybe early or in the fall, maybe at a September meeting, unless you could think of something that would interfere with that.
I thought you were thinking soon, like in the next few weeks or month to have her come in.
Well,
I mean, only if she would be helping us get a clearer picture of what we want and about the money and about, like, if she's gonna just be explaining what the open space plan is, then it maybe won't be as critical, but if she's gonna help us get our arms around how do we approach starting this, then maybe the sooner the better. I don't know when our meetings are, but
yeah, when are our meetings?
Second and fourth. You're talking about environmental?
Yeah, for July.
July looks like 13th and 27th.
yeah. So those would seem to be like the next targets, right?
So 27th, maybe? 27th, okay. So, yeah, because we're almost at the end of,
We're practically in September already, let's be honest.
It's too fast.
I'll give her 2 dates, the July 13th, and
That could
then,
be August 10th if you wanted to.
pardon me?
There's August 10th and 24th also.
13th, 27th, is the 13th sound good for people?
I'm not going to be here on the 13th.
Okay. The 10th, possibility. See if she's available on, she says she does come to meetings in the evening. So. Dean, you don't happen to know how much money we have in our open space fund? Or is that easily available if I just go to the website?
I doubt you'll find it on the website. Right.
Yeah, it only just, I think Sam just finalized everything today.
Yeah,
with The state and whatnot needs to be done.
we get about 300,000 a year, 330,000 a year, is my understanding. I don't know what the current balance is, though. It's,
What is it mostly used for? I mean, I know there's controversial history, but
Yeah.
like,
well, it's meant to purchase or improve open space.
Yes.
So I think in the past, it's been used to create fields.
mhm. So mostly for recreation or town business, not necessarily for environmental conservation.
My recollection is
Mhm.
more of it has been for that.
Too.
Yes.
It's been primarily for fields.
Yeah.
existing fields or new ones, I guess.
All right, so maybe a balance needs to be struck there. But yeah, and we also can, I can share any information I get and maybe Green Acres information. We could take a closer look at what they've done here with Lafayette. And also, I think in the back, well, somewhere, oh, it's in our, the sheet I handed you. There's references to the townships as examples of open space plans. Oh, that's it. Yeah. Camden, Readington, Lafayette, all of these towns that exist but you've never been to. No, actually Edison, so Camden. So there's, many towns have done this open space. And the one thing that Barbara Davis mentioned to me, and she says, I was wondering when Sparta was going to do an open space plan
Really?
because you're in the Highlands. And she said, you really need one. Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, totally. So the Lafayette one that you have there, that's online? That's the one you're pointing
Yeah,
to?
you can
Okay.
get, this is only part of it.
Okay, I'll look online.
But they're a local community. There may be another local community in our area that would be good to look at too, because we might as well compare apples with apples.
Yeah. So I guess the question at the end of this now is, do we need a subcommittee to keep pushing this forward over the next few weeks and months, or can we do it? I mean, you're kind of shepherding it a little bit, Christine, and do we just try to do this at these meetings, right? I think that's the question. Maybe it's too soon for a subcommittee. I don't know.
Well, I
I would
happen
like
to
to
know,
check to see, though. I
Well,
just feel like
yeah.
we took a motion, and I apologize, I don't have that for you. But there's nothing refraining from us to get a little bit more of this research maybe done, and then at the next meeting, take a vote.
Yeah.
Does that work for everybody?
oh, sure.
Because there's still the couple things that, we had asked that I wrote down, and I think we just need to do just a little bit more. But I just still feel like you were so.
I did bring it up. I definitely brought it up as like,
Yeah.
the master plan came up and I definitely was asking about the open space plan and like, couldn't we please? And then Christine brought it up after that and we had a discussion about like perhaps a formal subcommittee. So yeah, I think we've, as a committee, been talking about it for a couple meetings now.
But the thing, I like having a subcommittee because, the people on it will, get information to share. But what I don't like about subcommittees is that if you're not on that subcommittee, you don't have the incentive to be engaged, and if, so maybe we'll just let it go for a couple of weeks with the subcommittee and then see what Michelle and Kim recommend. And then, go from there.
And maybe we could also wait until after the presentation to hear what it really encompasses and, right, how to
Oh, yeah.
go about it, right? We might get insight from a presentation by Barbara Davis.
Yeah.
Right. Good.
I will be, well, if we got there yet, but I'll let you go ahead, Chair. Sure.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'll let you know at the next meeting, which is, tell me again when our next meeting is.
Should be, what did I just say? I'm already in
The
November.
13th, the
Yeah.
27th, and then
Okay, so there's no meeting on the 6th of July, right?
Well, that's
No.
a Wednesday. Oh, right, there is no planning. I believe that was discussed last night. There is no planning because it
No
wasn't on
planning
me.
board, no EC? Oh, wait, EC comes the next week.
Yeah,
That's
the
right. Now we're
13th.
back on a regular schedule. Okay. All right.
13th, which Linda won't be here,
correct.
but you don't mind if we make a motion to put you on it?
No, we'll try to go for the 27th and the 10th, unless she just can't make it. It depends on her schedule and availability, too.
And maybe, is there an opportunity that once a date is set, could that date be shared with the planning board? And they could establish it as a meeting date that some of them can actually come and listen to her speak firsthand rather than hearing,
Yeah, yeah.
right, our summary of what Barbara Davis says. Maybe it would be great
Yeah.
It's a great
for
idea.
them to hear it
Yeah.
firsthand.
Yeah.
But didn't we try that once to invite them to something?
Yeah, we just didn't know enough that we could have had the, when we had Hannah Katz here.
Mm-hmm.
And when you wanted everybody, but, and that's when you had learned that it's a quorum. And like even for, I'm just gonna skip ahead under, like the new business, that presentation, I have to do a special notice for the environmental commission. The planning board has to do it, and so does Roxanne. I don't know yet if we're doing it as a joint, notice to the paper and all that. We might just be doing that, but that's in order for everybody to sit in the room together and not worry about being together with a quorum. So that's a good idea, that if, as long as there's plenty of time, and then you guys as the liaison bring it on to the planning board, just to,
So what is the process for that? How long does it take? Because would the July 13th meeting make that impossible? Because then we should just look beyond that towards the
well,
end
you
of the
wanted
month or
to
into
do
August.
after the Highlands anyway,
Yeah,
which is July 18th, right?
Yeah.
So maybe that second July meeting, but I'll be honest with you, it's not a open, it's not a special meeting. Like, there's a 10-day notice where you have to, but that's only if you're bringing in certain people. I really think it's just there's a 48-hour requirement.
okay.
And truly, it's not, so something like that, because it is different than what we have planned, which were the 2nd and 4th, you want to give the paper and whoever else that it's sent to 48 hours. So you want to, so if it's the Herald, let's just say, I really would have to give that Friday, we'll see, that's a special note, so it would have to be for planning board to invite them, but you want to give the whole 48-hour notice, like for us, when it's already pre-planned, it's as long as we have the stuff posted in 48 hours, but if you're actually creating a date that is not your typical date, you have to give the press enough time to print it 48 hours before the event. That's my understanding of that. So it's not, you're talking maybe 4 or 5 days. And that's if they even print it. I sometimes think the fax, I bet you there's a stack of paper, the fax has a notice of cancellations and stuff. I just don't know, but I will get that answer also, the exact, but I'm
At the
gonna,
most, maybe a week, but we'll know way ahead of
Yeah.
time if
yeah, we'll know.
yeah, if they confirm, we'll know way ahead of time, so, yeah.
Right. I'm just worried about that week of, when we're having both a planning board meeting and we're having, the Highlands Council on the 19th. If we ask her to come the 27th and we really want to engage the planning board, maybe they're gonna want that week off.
Well, I don't think we can try to juggle we have so many people on the planning board, like we can't try to figure out vacations and calendars and all that, and,
Okay,
yeah, I wouldn't worry about that.
just go with Barbara's
Yeah,
schedule.
yeah,
please.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay.
And
all right.
maybe what you would do is, if you do bring it up, say at that planning board meeting, which would be the 19th, they could make the special notice that day, the next day, and then get it to the paper, and that, it just really is allowing them, if you get 5 people, that's all that is, really.
Mhm.
So, I think that would be plenty of time. But, given, I'll take a week off.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you're good with the later July and the August date to try to get that in.
Okay. Okay, all right. Well, thank you. I'll try to get back to you on that as soon as I find out, maybe via email or otherwise.
Okay. Do we have any other unfinished business?
I just had a question, because I missed last meeting, sorry, about the native invasive plants progress or status. If there was much discussion around that, or is it kind of paused for now, waiting for the state, or?
Right, we had talked about waiting for the state, although I feel like that's not really as close as we thought it was. So the idea was to shop it out to like the cooperative extension, and just get some feedback before we present it again, which, Kim and I haven't really connected on since
Okay.
then. I don't think I really came up
That's
last
the
week.
committee we voted on. I knew you, it was stuck in the back. As soon as you said it, that's it. Okay.
One suggestion that was given to me was, when we do this, if we have a link to a resource, an external resource, so I don't know if it's Rutgers or whoever it is, NJDEP, that
think
has
we have
this whole big list, that, one idea to consider to make it more usable for developers and for others who are gonna actually have to pick the right plants when they do their landscape plan, is to, for us to go ahead and proactively pick 10, 20, 30 of the most common culprits that we don't want them to use, that are invasive or non-native, and then just give them the replacement. And instead of having them to go look up a resource and go through a whole gigantic list of Latin terms and try to figure out on their own, to actually pick the ones that we think are the biggest problems in Sparta, and actually just lay those out and say, here's what we recommend, and it makes it easier for the planning board too. When something comes in, we'll know what's on our preferred list, and we can just check it too. But something that's just to consider.
We had a list, a link to an external list that was just the biggest problems in New Jersey.
Oh, okay.
And then the advantage, I think we talked about at one point, was, I mean, it's not a static thing. So, you know, in 3 years, it could look very different than it looks today. So if we have a hard list written into the code, then we're gonna have to go back and change it all the time. People are gonna have to keep up with it.
We'd have to, every few years,
Yeah.
go back in there and tweak it, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, so if we link to one of the organizations that very, you know, systematically, like this is all they do is keep track of this list of, and we weren't doing non-natives, like that would be like a, you know, recommendation for commercial developments where we would, I guess, like we have been doing, like recommend like plants or, you know, give them resources that point them to native alternatives. We talked about doing education around native alternatives, but this would be just a list of, you know, as per your build, the most current list from, you know, this organization. I forget, I think it's just the New Jersey Invasive Strike Team.
Oh, okay.
And we said, whatever the New Jersey Invasive Strike Team says don't do on the date, you know, that you're planting, you cannot do.
It would be just for invasives.
Right.
The native, non-native part would just be a recommendation, not a.
Right,
Okay.
right, right, exactly.
I was thinking, based on the discussion last night, that for the resolution, it might, if you gave them a formula, like perhaps, and then a link, native 75%, non-native, but non-invasive 25%, and invasive 0%. So that they could, you know, have mostly natives, but they also could have a variety, a greater variety. And that help with the cost also, I'm sure. And then you could also have, some things aren't gonna change. When you have the Bradford pear, calorie pear, they're gonna always be escaping. So we don't want any more of those, you know. And even though I've heard that the barberry, there's some that aren't spread to the woods. People are saying that, oh, not all barberries spread out into the environment. We have to do a little research on that, but that should be excluded.
Yeah, I mean, and I think again, like this is where it doesn't make a sense for us to do the research. Like the state is funding this research like quite handsomely. So if we're just like pointing to the research, it makes it a lot easier on us, I think. And we also, I mean, this is something to discuss, but at least my approach was to, I don't want to speak for Kim, was just make it as simple as possible for residents. And just because it is such like a tricky thing, like what you can't do on your private property. And to just draw like a very clear line with the invasives. And not give like a palette and only do that type of thing for commercial development, which we haven't really tackled.
So the early thinking, I know it's early, is that it would address residential property too?
And it would be, the draft is written in a way that says new plantings that would have to be, like, you'd have to tell on someone. Like, we're not gonna proactively go out and search properties.
Enforcement would be tough.
Yeah. But like, if a neighbor's like, I don't know, this new bamboo's going in, then we could write a letter and say, you have to remove the bamboo or don't plant the bamboo. And then we also were playing with the wording and try to figure out a way to say if the planting is damaging your neighbor's property, then that becomes an issue as well, where the neighbor could complain and then you would be responsible for making a buffer between and maintaining a buffer between your property and the neighbor's property. However, we'd have to exclude the township from something like that because the township is the biggest culprit of, invasive species along the, in the backs of the parks and, that type of thing. In the back of my house, I know it's all Barberry and it's township owned property.
Mm.
So, but a lot of towns do that. That's the only reason why I even thought of it, is because it's in a lot of the plans that you pulled together, Christine, early on. It's in almost all of those that the township has to end up being excluded because they can't afford, that kind of maintenance. But, maybe down the line, it's a different story.
Well, I think the resolution would, it would say that the township is going to follow these recommendations, right? Because the township sets the example for the landscapers and the garden centers,
I think the township would, yeah, I mean, I don't know how to word it, but in my opinion, the township should never plant invasive species. But if they already have areas that are completely overrun with invasive species, then what is the town's responsibility? That's the
Control?
question. Huh?
Control,
I mean,
and it's a vague term,
yeah,
I
but
mean,
it's a big can of worms. I mean, like ideally, yes, but I don't know if that's practical. So it gets complicated really quickly.
it'll be important when it gets done, it's the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Any other unfinished business? Christine? Okay. Michelle, I know you've been busy. Did you get a chance to talk to Sam about the energy assistance program?
The video I finally got to watch.
Yes.
Yes. Have I gotten to talk to him about it? No. Did I only just watch it probably about a day or two ago?
Oh, good.
Yeah, I finally was getting ready for the meeting and I was looking at my old agenda and I was like, oh, I was doing, some organizing or whatever, so I was watching it. But no, I have not been able to actually talk to Sam about that, but,
Okay, good.
it doesn't look like it is because it's on, I like that it was ongoing. There was not a deadline.
Right.
I had a couple thoughts on that and I couldn't find my notes, so I'd like to delve into that a little bit more now that I don't have all these other meetings to do at night.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Okay,
it's just been hectic, but we do have a new land use, we have people in places that will alleviate, the rest of those other meetings and stuff. So,
Wonderful.
yeah, I can delve a little bit more into it now, I feel.
Okay, good.
So,
Great.
thank you. I appreciate everyone's patience.
Oh, no, we understand.
Yes,
Sure. Thank you.
we're in a good spot.
Yeah. Okay, new business, we've already kind of talked about the New Jersey Highlands Council presentation on Tuesday, July 18th. I think that's gone out to the public, right?
It will, I think.
Yeah, I
it'd
think
be
it
public,
will, and
yeah.
then and then we'll do the appropriate notice. Yeah, but I do think that, most of your boards, it's been discussed. I think council, or even the last council meeting.
Yep.
You've been pretty active on that,
Yeah,
so.
yeah. And so it'll be out in the public too, and yeah, that'll be the only focus of the meeting. It won't be like a working meeting for any of the boards. It would just be,
Right, great. Okay, anything else from anyone?
Oh, I guess I just wanted to add that I saw that the new AmeriCorps New Jersey Watershed Ambassador application pool has opened, and that's important, I think, for this committee to just know about, because we do have watershed ambassadors that serve this area and throughout the Wallkill Basin. So if you know anyone that would be interested, it's a big educational piece that can help with a lot of information to the public about water resource protection.
what's the time frame for that? When do they look to fill it, like soon?
Yeah, it closes in July, I think mid-July, and then the position runs from September to next July. So it's a 10-month position.
I'm not clear, what are you suggesting, that we get that information out to the community so our young people can volunteer? But it's not restricted to age, right?
No, it's not restricted to age. It's just that the application pool is open right now. So I don't know if there's a real role that we can really play as a committee in promoting it. I don't know if that's something that could be put on our website or anything else, but it does serve a big purpose in Sparta, I think, for educating the school children and the general public. They do a lot of presentations throughout the Wallkill Basin, so I think it is important.
Great, okay, anything else?
Absolutely, that would be great if we could advertise that in some way.
But we do have that environmental email,
Yeah,
that we
the green team.
created, the green team
Oh, yeah.
type of
Yeah.
thing.
Oh.
I mean, I have to take, if I get a person who, or an email bounce back, I just take them off. Obviously,
Yeah.
they've changed their email or, but I think that's the whole purpose of that email. And I meant to bring that up, too, that just, well, now that we're talking more about it, that is like one of our best avenues right now. And every time somebody comes here, and I've been adding them. I don't know if that's what I'm supposed to be doing.
You come through the door, you're on the list.
Yeah, like Miss Whitehead that came the last time, I added her to that massive email just in case she's interested in anything. So we could definitely, if you
Okay.
have like a link or something.
Yeah,
Okay.
I could send you all the information that I saw today.
Yeah, yeah,
and
that'd be
that would be
great.
great if it can go out, because I
I don't
think
see why
there was no applicant last term. It's been vacant the entire year, so that's a big loss for the Wallkill and for Sparta.
Yeah.
Another idea, if we do an email to the green team, is advertise the Highlands Council meeting on the 18th.
Oh, yeah,
18th.
thank you. And then also, like we said, that could be used for gaining those other people, if we can do the volunteers, which I don't see why we couldn't, but, I just have to research this stuff, I don't know.
Thank you, Christine. If we have nothing else, I have a motion for adjournment.
Make some motion.
Do you want me to make the motion, or did you?
No, I'm asking for,
adjourn, okay, I motion that we adjourn the EC meeting of June 22nd, 2023.
Have a
Do I-
second?
Second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Okay. This meeting is
All
adjourned.
right.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.